got that strong ridge of high pressure that's going to be building in from Nevada, settling over Utah today and tomorrow. In fact, on Monday it'll be settling in along the border with Colorado, and that'll allow the temperatures in eastern Utah to climb even higher than what we're expecting this afternoon. But by the middle of the week, actually by Monday night into Tuesday, that moves off to the east of us. So as that ridge of high pressure weakens, temperatures will start to drop a little bit. But before that happens, it's going to be dangerously hot, with heat-related illness becoming even more likely. We've got some heat advisories and warnings already, in fact, over southwest and south central Utah, but going in fact across much of the
We are currently making our way to the Oregon coastline. We felt we were due for a couple weeks of living on the road, so we packed up the FJ and we started heading west. The Pacific Northwest Overland Expo is about a week away, and between now and then, we have nowhere else to be. Oregon is a place that we haven't had much opportunity to explore. I want this adventure to be as authentic as possible, so I did next to no research before heading out. OnX Maps looks to be the best candidate for the West Coast, so we will be relying on it heavily for trails, campsites, and open riding areas. We're just cruising along and seeing where the wind takes us.
We have 2 weeks of just open exploring for the most part. Aside from the Pacific Northwest Overland Expo, we really don't have anywhere to be, so we're just kind of taking our time and just driving across the country. So the Bonneville Speedway is behind us, and it's kind of sectioned off from the rest of this, but it's where they can race prototype vehicles and get top speeds and stuff like that without worrying about running into anything. Natalie was saying she's pretty sure it's only one time of the year or a couple times of the year that it's sticky like this, but my shoes are like twice as heavy as they were before I got out of the FJ. And what else is interesting about the salt that I noticed is my drones seem to think that there are obstacles around it when there weren't. And also there's interference trying to use Wi-Fi with the camera that I'm filming on right now. So I think the salt somehow is interfering with frequencies, which is pretty interesting. But anyway, it's pretty amazing out here. I mean, how many places can you go out onto a salt flat? This is literally table salt, essentially. It's being packaged a couple miles from here. It's pretty fascinating coming out here and seeing this. We're not camping here, we're not staying here, we're just stopping along the way because it's pretty and we could get some cool footage.
I applaud the brave souls out here with their tent set up to enjoy the sunset. But with how much of a sticky mess this place is right now, and with Blue's sensitive paws, we need to get back on the open road. But before we do that, we can see a minor setback sitting right in front of us. These young rascals must have assumed that it was as dry as we initially did, and they drove in at the worst place possible. We're the only vehicle in sight that even had a remote possibility of helping them out, so of course, we're going to. I'm making sure to spend some time both digging out space for one of the tracks and also sharing some wisdom to help them in future scenarios.
Oh shit! Yay!
I can only hope that this young man heeds my advice to thoroughly wash his car when he's done out here today. Salt flats and sand dunes, epic rivers, and epic views. Every time I drive across the United States, I'm reminded why so many people around the world want to come here and do just this. Very few places in the world allow for this kind of unobstructed travel. Our states are the size of some countries, and when we get to a state border, we don't have to show a passport or even insurance. The only obligation we seem to have is to stop by the state sign and take a photo. People travel from all over the world for this very experience. A large portion of this planet's population would do anything to experience what this kind of expansive freedom feels like. As many problems as this country may have, the United States is an incredible place to explore. And after multiple long days of driving, we've finally made it to the cool ocean air.
Hopefully you can hear me through the wind. We just got to Oregon not too long ago. We are camped out on the beach on one of the few beaches that you can actually do this on. This is our sunset. Now, it's kind of a weird beach to camp on because the tide comes up just below us, but it'll be while we sleep, and people do it on a regular basis, so I'm pretty confident in it. But anyway, it's pretty cold out here. It was like 92 degrees just a little while ago, and as we're driving through, getting towards the coast, it's like 56 degrees outside. So we're not entirely sure how much of this kind of camping we're gonna be able to do, just because there isn't a lot of beach camping in Oregon. And so we had the opportunity to do it tonight, so we're gonna do it tonight. And at the end of the week, we're going to Overland Expo, Pacific Northwest. So we camp like this, so the FJ would be faced into the wind, and the Alu cab should do its job. That's the benefit of a clamshell tent. I think under any other circumstance, we would not want to camp in this kind of wind, but it's just too rare of an opportunity for us. We're just climbing up in the tent because we made it. We had a long day. We haven't slept in a couple days very well. So we're just gonna climb up into the tent and wake up on the ocean. And then we're gonna start working our way north and just kind of check out what this place has to offer. There's gonna be some off-roading and there's gonna be some on-roading, but there's gonna be a lot of beautiful scenery. So stick around for this one. We're very excited about it.
There are few better places to wake up to than the sand and the sea. The seagulls are welcoming the morning tide, and we are welcoming the warm sun. Unfortunately, this may be the only beach that we get to camp on for this entire trip, but that's also what has made this so special.
is down. We have a lot more beach that we can drive up the coast here. So we don't think we're gonna camp here again tonight, but we are gonna go drive around a little bit, just explore while we can, and then we're gonna head on and go try to find our next campsite.
We have just a little while longer to take it all in. Me and Natalia aren't the only ones that wish that we could stay here and enjoy the cool breeze and the warm sun. We could sit here for days if we so chose, but there's more to explore and I get stir crazy. So it's time to get back behind the wheel. We've got armor to defend from rocks, differential lockers to assist up ledges, and equipment to stop us from rolling off 2,000-foot drops. This Toyota is built for just about anything, yet simply driving on the beaches is probably the most enjoyable part of owning it.
The tent is filled with sand. We're gonna have to clean that out wherever we camp next. It was super windy, but it was one of the few chances that we're gonna have to actually primitive camp on a beach while we're on this trip, because a lot of it is gonna be camping in the forest and stuff. And so we had to take advantage of it, and we just wanted to stop driving for the day. Now we're on Highway 101 and we are heading north, and we're just basically checking stuff out to find where we're gonna camp next.
We drove across the country for this experience. The beach camping was amazing, but the forests of the Pacific Northwest is what was calling us. Only 7 temperate rainforests exist on this planet, and between Oregon and Washington is one of them. Okay, we have finally found a campsite after driving for quite some time. We knew it was going to take longer than it would in like Colorado just because the coastline is such a popular area, but it was worse than we thought. OnX sent me to a part of the trail I really didn't want to go to. It actually sent us way farther than where I thought it was. It's kind of my fault, I wasn't paying attention. That slowed us down, and then off of the coastline we came up into the woods and we're looking for a spot to camp. So a lot of these spots out here are inhabited by the homeless population, unfortunately, and you know, unfortunately in multiple different ways. We had to go quite a ways up into the mountains to find this little hidey hole to where we are under the coverage of trees. We've even got some berries growing right here in our campsite. But yeah, this is our spot for the night. So I am absolutely crushed. I have a bottle of Woody Creek whiskey, Woody Creek Distillery bourbon whiskey from Basalt, really close to where we live. And I just opened it for the first time to drink some of it. And I was gonna bring this for the Expo, and it is cracked, chipped on the inside under the lid, and there is glass floating in the bottom of it. Or floating on the bottom of it. So we are cooking our trusty chicken tacos that I went over in the Equinox video, just because they've been like our go-to this year, because they're actually really good, and I kind of get in a groove every year where I come up with something new to eat and then we eat it a bunch. So anyway, that's what's going on tonight, just because we've been driving non-stop, and this is the first night that we actually have time to cook something. We've cheated and we've stopped at different places along the way and ate our meals, and so I'm gonna cook something up and then we're gonna go watch the sunset. We aren't sticking around for long this morning. I'm gonna check the oil, the coolant, and I'm gonna start pushing farther north.
So we finally found our campsite last night, and we had to really venture deep into the woods to find it, because there are other options that were closer, but man, it bums me out how trashed it is here.
Yeah.
It's pretty sad to see, really. And
it seems like there's a lot of people living out here, like full-time living in their campers, and lots and lots of trash.
yeah, there's
Which is sad.
I really don't know what to say about it. It's one of those things that I don't quite know how to understand. I mean, part of it's a problem with society, people. There's all sorts of stuff that contribute to it. But as people who spend all of our time in nature, it really bums me out to see that stuff.
And we finally found a campsite, though, that wasn't trash at all. I mean, there was a little bit, and of course we picked all that up on our way out, pack in, pack out. But we found a little nook, and I think people haven't been using this little nook that we found because it was definitely a tiny little road in that you definitely needed high clearance for, and four-wheel drive, obviously.
These forests are some of the most incredible forests in the world, I would say, these coastal forests. And to see that people have just dumped trash on, like, obviously no care for nature whatsoever, it's hard for me to see.
When I see places like this, I like to imagine what it must have been like 1,000 years ago for those that called this place home. The very trees still growing here today supplied limbs for spears, bows, and arrows. And children must have ran across these sands to learn from their fathers how to pull fish from this ocean. It must have been an incredibly hard, an incredibly beautiful, and an incredibly rewarding time to live. I'm certainly grateful for modern conveniences and modern medicines, but I think most of us can agree that how easy things are make us long for more. And that's why we find ourselves on these adventures in the first place. We're connecting to a nomadic lifestyle that calls from deep within us. Today specifically, there's a little more history to appreciate as well. 248 years ago from this very day, the Second Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. And since then, we've celebrated the 4th of July in this country, and we are currently on our way to watch the celebration from a place we've always wanted to watch it from, on the ocean shores.
Cooking in a paved parking lot on the 4th of July.
It's so that we can go to the beach afterwards and watch the fireworks on the beach.
So we are eating in a parking lot because you can't camp anywhere near the beach, really, unless it's paid camping, but it's 4th of July week. And so decided we want to watch the fireworks. So we're making dinner in a parking lot, and we're gonna walk down to the beach and check this out, and then we gotta go find a campsite in the dark, which is gonna be a bummer, but I think it'll be worth it.
This is a parking lot, but it's also a day use picnic area, so.
Yeah, I'm saying it's a parking lot, which it is, but it looks like it used to be camping perhaps, and they shut it down, making it sound trashier than what it is. They could just say we're in an epic forest somewhere. I feel like Will from Venture to Rome would appreciate this because he's a whiskey guy. So my whiskey bottle broke right here, and I don't think they'll return it. So we're filtering a little bit of glass that might be in it with coffee filters.
Don't do this at home.
Don't do this at home. This makes me look like an alcoholic, but it's mostly because I bought this in Colorado, and I'm not confident in 2.5 weeks when we get back after I bought it, I'm gonna be able to be like, there's something wrong with my bottle, you know? It just seems like kind of a weird thing. And I wanted to have this nice bourbon on the beach, so we're doing it. No glass yet. This could be a terrible idea, but from my glass blowing past, surely
You're
I'm glass proof. I think I'm glass proof.
The locals of whatever town this is that we're in, and travelers alike, have collected on the beach for a combination of an incredible sunset and the celebratory artillery that this particular holiday brings. We are sitting here wondering why we didn't do this the last time we came to the West Coast this time of the year. A few drinks on the beach with nothing but time on our side is an incredible feeling. It just seems like there has to be a reason that we haven't done this before. So obvious, it's staring me right in the face.
We gotta leave because our Bubby is freaking out.
Blue is shivering and freaking out, worse than we've ever seen her.
Yeah, we gotta leave.
Fireworks.
Gotta give her some CBD, calm her down.
Yeah.
Get her out. Get her out of the boom town. Gave her some CBD. She's too old for this. So we want to be as gentle as possible on her. Yeah, the big booms.
As far as traveling with the dog goes, this is why, this is another reason why it's nice to have CBD. This is the kind of thing you got to kind of be prepared for. Anyway, she is calming down now.
Yeah.
We're going to try to get into the trees of fairways to where, you know, we're not going to be impervious to the sound of fireworks, but hopefully we can get away from a fair bit.
So we have stopped to take pictures of the sunset, and immediate panic has ensued with this poor dog. All sorts of fireworks happening around us.
Living between the mountains of Colorado, we actually don't get to see sunsets like these. So when we do, it's hard not to stop and capture them. But this photo stop is brief, and we need to get Blue somewhere where she feels safe.
So he's rolled up on this camp and somebody is building something out here. Unsure what this is. Some sort of a structure. This is what a lot of the roads look like out here. You basically drive into it and it's just blocked off with something. And some of the roads have been blocked off with people's abandoned cars or semi-abandoned cars, which is always just not an open invite. And then some of them, the Forest Service has filled in with rock. And behind this one, there's another pile. So they're definitely trying to keep people out of here, so we got to respect that. This one had an army of mice of some sort of rodent around us that we could hear last night. And then it sounded like we could hear foxes too outside of the tent that were probably coming over to hunt them.
The flower, it blooms and then it is protecting this little area inside, which then becomes this, and the petals fall away, which then becomes this, which then becomes this, and finally turns into a berry. So it's like the inside of the flower that is the berry.
Okay, so we had kind of a lame campsite last night. This is more of a trip of doing cool things, seeing pretty places, and sleeping wherever we can, because honestly for us, part of doing all this is not having to pay for campsites. We do here and there, but we wouldn't be able to afford this if we had to pay just ridiculous campsite prices. So we're gonna mosey on, we're headed to the beach, and it's looking to be a good day. I think we have like 12 or 15 miles of beach that we can drive on here, which is pretty awesome. So we're gonna go down, and there is a shipwreck down here that we're gonna go check out because that just sounds too cool.
Got our eyes on the bald eagle.
So we found the shipwreck on the beach. We are here an hour later than we're allowed to drive down there. So we're gonna have to walk down to the shipwreck, and I'm sure it's just because it gets so busy during the day, but it'll still be cool to see. All right, so let's go check this thing out.
Rocky shores, strong currents, and dense fogs have long been known to make Oregon's coastlines a challenge to navigate. And this area in particular was even called the graveyard of the Pacific. On October 25th, 1906, the Peter Iredale and its crew were returning from Mexico, and they were challenged with the harsh conditions, and they ultimately lost to the strong winds that were forcing them towards the shoreline. This might sound like the start to a sad story, but the entire crew literally walked away unharmed. Legend has it that as they stood on the shore, Captain H. Lawrence poured each of his crew a whiskey. He then turned to the ship and said, "May God bless you, and may your bones bleach in these sands."
a billy-o-tea. The winds blew harder, bobbed it down. Blow me, woolly boys, blow. Soon may the weatherman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tanning is done, take our leave and go. She had not been 2 weeks from shore when down on her a right whale bore. The captain called all hands and swore to take that whale in tow. Soon may the weatherman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tanning is done, take our leave and go.
We came by here at 2:30 and there's a sign that said we'll be back at 3:30. We went and got Natalia food because she's not into fish. And then we came back here and literally the parking lot was full and there was just a line of people waiting for an order. But look at this fry job, man. I've never seen a batter like this. I mean, obviously it just looks like fish batter probably, but
Do a little scratch on it. Let's hear the crisp.
let's hear that crisp. That's good fish. This is next level. Good stuff. We need this and then we gotta find camp.
She took that ship in tow. Soon may the weatherman come to bring us sugar and tea and rum. One day when the tanning is done, take our leave and go. Da 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 da
Check out the river access we got here. Pretty awesome. So this is what it's looking like. And we've got a few just massive old trees here, which I always think is just incredible. So maybe it's just a coastal thing, but we can't seem to find trails, like real trails. All the trails we've gone on so far are dirt roads, or like this is listed as a trail on OnX, and then when you get on it, it was literally paved almost the entire time. I really don't think, I mean, it's kind of an off-grid area. It's a logging road, but it was mostly paved, so I don't even understand why it's going to be on an off-road listing. It has not been easy to find campsites. Maybe it's because we're on the coast, but just finding stuff that's decent and isn't trash. Because I mean, even this spot, it's beautiful. I mean, look at this. Who would possibly trash this, right? I just came looking for footage and around this awesome old tree that is just massive. Came around the bend. Look at all of this trash. This is such a bummer. Air mattresses, wood, trash bags, toilet paper everywhere. I understand. Seeing this kind of stuff makes me understand why forest services are closing stuff. Look at all of these toilet paper scraps. Disgusting, man. Who goes to see a pretty place and trashes it and leaves? We are not those people. We'll clean up a little bit of it before we leave. All right, time for a whiskey and lemonade. Filtered whiskey and lemonade. Ain't nobody showing up with filters for their whiskey. Yeah, so, cheerio.
Cheers.
So we have this nice campsite. We kind of wanted to get away from the coast because the coast is hard to camp on. The forests on the coast are trashed by all sorts of people, as I was discussing before. And so we wanted to kind of backtrack a little bit and get into nature, try to camp on a river. This is an ideal river, just because Natalia wanted that. What was that river you were peeping?
I don't know how to pronounce that.
The one on the way in that we had video of?
It's Umpke.
Umpke, yeah. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Led into national park stuff. And so we were kind of hoping that there'd be more of that. And this, maybe there is, and this just
This
isn't
is a beautiful river. It's just, it's not really swimmable.
This slow-moving water has a green hue from the moss that covers the riverbed. Natalia went down to inspect it up close to see if she could spot any potential swimming holes. Instead, she spotted something else entirely.
I want to catch one.
This river is absolutely dominated by newts. I had to browse my identification book for this particular species, and after a quick chat with my good friend Jesse about what I've found, I learned that these little guys have quite a story.
Beautiful, look at that. Look at this pretty little belly. Just adorable. Their little dinosaur head. Look at that little dinosaur head. So cool.
Salamanders and newts are already known to be some of the most adaptable creatures in nature. But the rough-skinned newt that we're seeing here is also a deadly example of evolution. The skin of a single one of these animals contains enough neurotoxin to kill 25,000 mice or 20 people.
See if I can do it without disturbing them. 1, 2, 3, 4. Trying to take count. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Got another one over there. 12. I know there's more hiding under this. That one's pretty healthy. Pretty cool. Very docile. Oh, I don't want him to fall. There we go. That one's got a wide head like a pit bull. Those climbing skills. Man, they're cute. They look like little dinos. These are way cuter than the ones I found in Colorado. Like substantially. They're strong.
Very cute.
Strong little guys.
Look at his.
Yeah, look at those little.
He's like a little pit bull.
See how wide the bottom of his legs are? They're like Popeye arms.
Wow.
See you later, buddy.
Look at him swimming. He's so cute.
Yeah, I love it. So cool.
It's been found that the common garter snake is highly resistant to this toxin. Over the course of millions of years, the newts have become more deadly, while the snakes have become more resistant. And as time goes on, the process will continue. Handling these animals isn't typically dangerous, but we will be certain to wash our hands before our next meal.
Be careful, huh?
I gotta mark this spot on the maps.
What we got here?
Lemon cheesecake.
Costco scores?
From Costco. And they have little candied lemons on top. Little lemon rind on top, candied lemon rind. And a graham cracker crust at the bottom.
Pretty good.
Very excited.
Cheers. Cheesecake cheers.
Cheesecake cheers.
The sounds of nature are going to guide us to sleep. And the next few days are going to be quite different than the environments that we've been in for the past week. The Overland Expo Pacific Northwest is centered right in the middle of this trip. And meeting creators, patrons, subscribers, and of course finding things that I can't live without is all part of this show. But unlike Natalia, my social battery depletes pretty quick. After 3 days at the show, it's time to get back to the winding roads of the West.
Bard's Camp. Looks like this has been here for a while. Nothing creepy about that. Wow.
We don't actually have a game plan for the remainder of this trip, so tonight we're gonna hunker down and make one. After 3 days around thousands of people, an evening of silence and without touching the cameras is more than welcome. Last night, we formulated a rough idea of what we want to do next, and that decision is to make our way to Washington. Say what you want, but the vehicle that looked like a crime scene on the way through last night doesn't give me total confidence in this area. And with a wildfire recently starting nearby, it's best that we just move on from Oregon for the remainder of this trip. But first, we need to make some pit stops to load up on necessities. Hard cider is a pretty big deal in this part of the country, and after you've spent some time here, it becomes quite obvious why. Fruits grow like weeds out here. We did hope to find fresh pies here at the fruit farm, but it looks like the search for the perfect pie continues.
Pickles and cheese. Pickles and cheese. It's a delicious snack because it's like a ham sandwich without the ham or bread.
We're loaded up with a week's worth of food, fresh fruit and cider, and now we're crossing the Columbia River and making our way to the Washington Backcountry Discovery Route. One of my favorite things about this part of the country is being able to pull over and grab a handful of berries from the thousands that are growing right on the side of the trail.
It's a shitty looking raspberry.
We just got on the BDR route for Washington. Tyler's airing down. We don't know how rough it's going to be. But so far it's really beautiful here in the Cascade Mountains.
We did the whole coast thing, but since we're so close to Washington, we really like Washington. So we're back in Washington. On this trip, we've been doing so many camp at cool places, get on the road, camp in cool places, get on the road. We wanted to do some more stuff like what we're used to, which is wild the entire way. So we found the Washington BDR trail, the Backcountry Discovery Route. I've never done a BDR trail before. We're full of fuel, we're full of water, and we are full of food. And so we're gonna start this and see how long it takes us. We've got a whole nother week to be out here exploring. came across basically an abandoned campground right up the road. It was like 18 bucks a night, and honestly, I'm not big on the paid camping. So we found our own little spot right here on the creek. And so we're gonna cook up some dinner and drink some of our cider that we found earlier. So this is from Mount View Vineyard, or I think it's called Vineyard, but the place is called Mount View. So you can't buy this stuff anywhere but going to that place. They gave us a taster of this stuff and it was so good. It's pretty expensive, it's 30 bucks for a bottle. But honestly, we were gonna buy some champagne for the 4th of July, never did it, so worked out quite well. All right, let's pop into this stuff.
Let's pop it.
Natalia's favorite word. Tell me when, my lady.
To the brim.
To the brim.
Cheers, babe.
Cheers. So good.
It's so good.
If it wasn't so expensive and we had 2 fridges or some crazy thing, I would be stocking up on these bad boys.
I know, it's delicious.
That's good.
This one, she said, wasn't too sweet, it wasn't too dry, and that's exactly what it tastes like.
Perfect.
Yeah.
It's completely perfect. It is 65 degrees, and if you watch carefully, Blue is shivering. It's 65, pup. So I would say that overlanding here in Washington and Oregon is a very different experience than Colorado, just because it's not just the mountainous terrain that we're not experiencing here as much, but it's that these are not old mining roads. These are not old rough roads from the 1800s. These are, some of them are paved, some of them are just gravel, and some of them are blocked off. We've been seeing from the OnX stuff. We'll just come to one of these little side trails and there's a big pile of dirt or logs or something and you can't go past it. We have been enjoying ourselves thoroughly, exploring these different types of trails, different types of terrain. We are so burned out from the Overland Expo. There was so much walking, so much talking, so much cool stuff to see. It was very enjoyable, but it does wear you out. If you've ever been to one, you understand. We're gonna take it pretty easy tonight and we're gonna get back on the trails tomorrow. We're looking forward to what the Washington Cascade Mountains have to offer.
Okay, for dinner we're making a very easy dish. It's just cheese tortellini with pesto and chicken. Super easy if you don't have a lot of time to do something. This is a great recipe. I'm actually vegetarian, so I have my own chicken that I cooked right here, my Impossible chicken, and then I have Tyler's cooking right here. And I just boiled the tortellini and then put a bunch of pesto over it. Now this is way too much, but we're gonna save some for later. So this actually makes 2 meals, and it's gonna make a meal for us when we're getting to camp late that we don't want to take a lot of time to do. We can just reheat it real quick, which is great. And then it takes a lot of water to boil tortellini, so we're gonna reuse this water and do a bunch of hard-boiled eggs. So it's kind of like a really simple, filling meal that you can utilize multiple ways.
I missed your turn.
And I'm also gonna put some Merlot cheese on top of it because that sounds amazing. And maybe a bunch of other spices because I really do like to have things spiced up.
Professional. We've gotten so good at it though.
isolated campsite next to a stream was exactly the kind of environment that we needed last night. The feeling of being back along the trail in nature is gratifying. The dense forests here actually force a feeling of isolation. I'm not entirely sure how remote we actually are, but we feel cut off from the rest of the world. And I love that feeling. As I mentioned, this trip was largely unplanned. I've really been leaning on OnX Offroad to find our way around on this adventure, and I have to say that it's made finding these trails that are hidden in the forests incredibly easy. Usually I have to do some research to find routes that don't just lead to a dead end. We found the BDR on the app, and that's what got us started here yesterday. All we know now is we're headed deep into the Cascade mountain range, and we're quite optimistic that it's going to be well worth our time. Roads is interesting because all you can see are trees, and a lot of it looks the same. But when you get a break in the foliage, you get a glimpse of what's to come. The distant mountain peaks act as a beacon for the beautiful landscape ahead. Natalia is in love with these forests. As a child, she ran under the forest canopies of this state barefoot, talking with the birds, the frogs, and the plants. And I've heard her stories over the years, but standing here, I can visualize it and I can appreciate what a fantastic experience that must have been. There's no shortage of streams and rivers in these forests. Flowing water is beautiful in its own right, but for whatever reason, when it falls off of rocks, we are all mesmerized by it. Does it signal to us that the water is clean to drink, or a place that we can clean ourselves? Or perhaps it goes even deeper, serving as a reminder of the infinite flow of nature.
So we have this awesome lake back here behind us, but it's paid camping on that side, and there's an epic view of a mountain right behind it. But on the free side of the camping, of course, you can't see that. And we haven't seen hardly anybody driving all day, but this particular campsite that is paid, which we may do just because it's really cool looking, but it's packed. It is absolutely packed with people. So we're trying to find something cool that's free, because we have the ability to do it generally. So we're gonna keep on looking. We've been checking out different areas to see if there's anything similar that was a little more wild, but
there's nothing, and it's just so beautiful that we don't want to pass it up.
yeah, it seems like a rare opportunity to camp at such a cool looking campground. So we're gonna go ahead and pay for camping, assuming they take a card, because we're way away from everything and we don't even know if we can actually pay for it. Then if we can't, then I don't know what we're gonna do.
Well, I think if we can't, then we're gonna use one of those wild camping sites nearby, and then just
hike on down.
Yeah.
We really don't like to pay for camping, but once you see it, you'll understand. We just found out that camping in Washington, or at least at this campground, is free. I would assume Monday through Thursday. We just asked if they could break some money for us, a big bill for us, and they said that it's totally free if we're gone by 10 a.m. So that's pretty awesome.
It's so pretty, and we just want to be here for the night.
Yeah,
whatever.
It's gonna be a beautiful sunset.
We don't have much time before we need to head down to the lake to catch the sunset. But the FJ's camping configuration is quick and efficient. I always open the tent first, so it's done and I don't have to unclip the awning again later. And I leave a window slightly open to allow any trapped moisture from last night to air out a while. Next is the awning. And when we get into the evening hours, the awning helps capture our Thermacell mosquito repellent, and it absolutely creates a barrier within our campsite. And last, our kitchen setup is quick to deploy, so in instances like this, making a quick meal so we can go chase light isn't a major challenge. We immediately have absolutely no regrets of staying at this campground tonight. While one might assume that the shorelines would be crowded with sunset spectators, no one but us is prepared to embrace the hundreds, if not thousands of mosquitoes that are swarming the lake. spending an evening watching the sun set against a volcano is definitely not something that I anticipated seeing on this trip. Mosquitoes and all, we're both feeling quite fortunate to be here right now. Mount Adams hasn't erupted in over 1,000 years, but it isn't extinct. It's pretty amazing that a place this tranquil has and will again be an example of how violent and unforgiving nature can be. But sitting here, seeing it while it sleeps, makes it almost impossible to turn our cameras off.
So this campsite was fantastic. We got an awesome sunset. We did some night lapse photography, which was really cool. But now we're gonna head out of here and we need to start making our way back towards Colorado. So I think we're gonna cut over into Idaho and then we're just gonna kind of take our time exploring through there. And we're still hoping that we get into something a little rougher than this. This was bumpy dirt road, but still we really haven't needed Ford Low.
It's always bittersweet when you have to watch such a beautiful place disappear behind you in the rearview mirror. But rather than rush, we would rather take the slow and scenic way home.
Is it Wednesday?
I think so.
Let's see. Yeah, today's Wednesday. We're on the BDR currently, but we want to start making our way back today towards Colorado. So we are going to cut over into Idaho and then try to find some more camping, hopefully something a little rougher. I'm not entirely familiar with all of the trails in that state, but I'm sure we'll find something using OnX.
Last time we did P&W, we went down Highway 55 in Idaho.
That was
and
pretty.
there's so many pretty things that I'm sure there's like really good trails off that highway somewhere, so that could be cool.
Yeah, we didn't do a lot of them because we had to conquer. And
Yeah, we didn't.
too
Yeah,
much.
exactly. We weren't able to do anything. So
So maybe we'll explore down there again.
yeah.
We intend to explore much more of Washington in the future. Until then, we're going to miss the berries, the moss, the waterfalls, and of course, the hard cider. But the adventure never stops, it just changes scenery. For the past 10 days, we've explored the Pacific Northwest. The flowing waterfalls, the dark forests, and the volcanoes on the distant landscape have been a fresh kind of scenery that we don't typically get to enjoy. But at least for now, we have to leave this place behind. It's time to make the push back home. We're taking our last glimpses of the mountain ranges here in Washington. We want an opportunity to put the Toyota into low gear, and we haven't yet found it here on this trip. Our best bet with our time that we have remaining is to make our way back through Idaho. There's one place that you can count on rugged roads. It's the Rocky Mountains. We've decided to take the scenic route home, and as the sun starts to cast long shadows this evening, we are being presented with quite an incredible show. Rolling fields of wheat isn't something that immediately comes to mind when I think of Washington State.
Okay, so we have found camp for the night. It is not as wild as you might expect. There is a toilet behind us, but this is free camping, and it's either this or we drive several hours into the mountains, and those mountains are part of what we're trying to see. So we just wanted to kind of call it good and camp here for the night, because this is a spot where Blue can hang out. We're hoping for the best, that nobody's going to be out here on a Wednesday, and that is the case. So now we're going to drink local Washington cider. I bought pineapple cider,
Lavender
honey cider, and I bought something else. I think I bought a beer. But yeah, so this is our campsite. This is not as wild as we normally get into, but it actually is pretty wild because there's nobody out here other than this guy on his boat going up the Snake River. So the Snake River is the river that Lewis and Clark explored America on. So there's a little bit of history here. And I mean, look at this sunset. There's some power lines going over it, of course. What can you do?
It was a really good little find though. No one's out here. We got to go through these rolling wheat fields, which normally isn't like what we're looking for as beautiful scenery, but it was beautiful in the golden light. I don't know. So I like it.
I like it.
Good.
Yeah, I'm all right with it. Looks super pretty. And how often do we get to camp on the Snake River? Never.
Exactly.
So, super cool. So time for some fresh cider.
Over the course of my 37 years, I've had many experiences that in the moment, I felt that I would experience it again one day. And I never know exactly why it's those moments, but I can pick them out from the rest. Profoundly emotional and impactful blips in my life story. Someday, in my final moments, when a life worth of memories flashes before my eyes, this particular sunset, at this particular point in time, sitting here with my small family, will be one of them.
We're gonna start making our way towards Idaho. And what highway were we going down?
We're gonna go down 55. We went down it last time, but we weren't able to explore it because we had the trailer on the back. And this time we're gonna be able to do some more exploring, so we're excited about that.
Yeah, the trailer was a big hassle last time. Even though it was an off-road trailer, it just didn't work. So anyway, we're on our way to Washington last time, heading through this area, and now we're on our way back from Washington, of course, and we've given ourselves a few days to actually explore this area, because it was one of those places that you travel through on the way to somewhere else and you're like, oh man, this is where we should be spending some time. So we're looking forward to it.
We've been finding a lot of those spots on this trip. A lot of those spots that we want to come explore again. And I think that's what's really fun about doing these types of trips, is being able to just stop and explore all kinds of things when you don't have plans.
We really didn't have a good game plan for this trip necessarily, but because of this trip and just wandering, I've got waypoints all over the map now of places that I can go into, and we could spend a week at each spot if we wanted to. So I think we're both already looking forward to next time. Reality stop, wash up in the rivers stop on highway. What highway is? Are we to the highway yet?
No, we're
still not?
We're on 95.
We're on 95. We washed Blue up. Feels great. We are headed up a road that says that they have huckleberry pie for sale. We think this is it, and it's like more of an off-road trail than we got onto in Washington. Locked gate, does not seem like it's pie territory, so I think we are gonna turn around, unfortunately.
And hope that maybe that was a sign for something down the road.
Maybe. Okay, we found the actual pie spot.
Maybe this also
Maybe.
looks sketchy.
This looks like an industrial yard, lumber yard. But there's claims of pie here, so. And cherries.
Oh, there? Okay.
Where's the pie shop? Way back here. So we got huckleberry hand pies, 2 of them, a cherry pie, a peach pie, well, all hand pies. I got a whole banana bread, homemade banana bread for $10. And then I bought a homemade peanut butter cookie. This is heaven on earth to me. So we loaded up, we wanted an entire pie on this whole trip, but reality sets in and it's like, we can't fit this in the actual refrigerator back there, so we just settled for hand pies. It works out pretty perfect.
We found an interesting looking area along our route, and our initial plan was to set up camp early and just enjoy the evening. But after seeing that we're close to a fire lookout, of course, we don't have much choice. We have to make it to the top.
I don't think I've ever driven to a lookout before, nor has Natalia. And so this is our first time. We're out here in Idaho, making our way down 55, I keep forgetting. Yeah, Highway 55. So we're finding a campsite, but there's a lookout, so we came up here for the night, but we are getting eaten alive by mosquitoes. It's pretty vicious, so we're gonna head out to find a campsite, but just look at this. It's incredible up here. Lakes.
And now we need to find a campsite. But it appears that at least in this part of Idaho, the trails are laid out in a particularly confusing fashion. There are a lot of tight, unmarked side routes along our path, so in hopes to find isolation, we're going to add some more pinstripes to the FJ.
Okay, so we've been driving for like an hour and we came down some roads. We're trying to take the easy exit and there is a gate blocking this side of it. So we're gonna have to go all the way back and come back down the open way. Okay, we got to camp super late tonight, like 10 o'clock. We were messing around trying to find like a perfect campsite. And there's a lot of roads here that aren't necessarily marked correctly. And so like that blocked road we found slowed us down for a long time. And then we kind of missed out on some of our campsite opportunities. We've had a lot of late nights on this trip.
We have. We're not very good at picking a spot.
Also not sure about grizzly bears here, if that's a thing. I know they probably are in Idaho somewhere. I just don't know if they're in this part of Idaho. So I think I'm going to take a little more care with our food or our trash tonight. I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to do something to deal with it a little bit better than I normally would. But just in case, because I really don't want to wake up with a grizzly bear outside of our tent.
Yeah.
I'm hoping you guys can hear that behind me. I'm gonna have to set up the audio recorder to get this too. But there's like, here in Idaho, there's some very bizarre sounding noises. I'm pretty sure it's cattle, some sort of a cattle operation. But with it echoing through the mountains, it sounds so trippy. They're sheep. It's so hard to tell. That's what it sounds like. There might be...
They might be driving, the dogs might be driving them this way.
Maybe that's what the cowboy camp was about that we saw.
Yeah. Maybe sheep herders out here.
Super creepy though at camp. Now it's a little more clear. But for a while we could not understand what that was. I thought it was like a boat in the distance or something because there's a lake near, but it's not the case. So anyway. Crack into this banana bread.
This morning is a bittersweet morning. It's the last full day we have before we have to return home.
You want another one? Are you sure?
It's delicious though.
For the most part, I think a lot of our trip this entire time has been a very beginner-friendly route because you could have done this in a completely stock four-wheel drive. You would want four-wheel drive and know how to air your tires down. Aside from that, I mean, really...
Well, we got into some stuff last night that was a bit...
Yeah, for the most part. For somebody who's new to this, I think they could have done all of these routes. You just probably wouldn't have taken a few of the risks that we would have. But I do think like the whole coast, just driving down the coast, finding places to camp, that was easy. Driving through the BDR, that was very easy. And it really wasn't that challenging. It was mostly just old dirt roads and potholes. It's a different kind of travel than what we do in Colorado. We're covering a lot of ground and we're getting to see a lot of different terrain through a lot of different states, and it's been a pretty cool experience.
Yeah.
It's quite nice.
It's quite nice.
It feels like we should just be getting started, but here we are towards the end of the journey. Soon enough, we'll be back to our normal life. Going to work, clocking in, clocking out, daily chores, sleeping, and repeating. I think that's the big draw to this kind of lifestyle. These trips almost make you forget about your day-to-day responsibilities and lets you live more in the individual moments and lets you get a chance to enjoy what really matters.
I've learned some stuff about traveling this time as far as trying to plan these routes, because I do try to plan interesting routes for the sake of making these videos. We're a little too ambitious on that we could just travel down a highway and then find an off-road route and go up that, because as we all know, off-road routes can take a whole day in themselves. And part of the problem with this trip, not really a problem, but having the Overland Expo right in the center of it sounded like a good idea, but it ended up really breaking up our time to where we were on the coast, and then we had to get back to Central Oregon, and then from Central Oregon, it's like, do we drive all the way back to where we just were, which was kind of a disappointment because it was so trashed, or do we go somewhere else towards Washington? And we did that, and then it was beautiful, but then at the same time, it was like kind of boring trail. By the time we got into the interesting trail, we had to start heading back this way. So nothing really worked out, but I kind of feel like that's part of the story here. I guess what I'm getting at is that this trip was not a bunch of crazy off-roading, but it was a bunch of beautiful places, and I really enjoyed seeing it all. I know in Idaho there is crazy camping, wild camping, off-road, crazy trails, but this trip didn't work out that way. And I want you guys to understand that even on your own trips, if you're a newcomer to this kind of thing, you don't need to be up into the mountains just destroying your vehicle to have an incredible time. I can tell you right now, the van lifers probably see more cool stuff than the vast majority of our population, and most of them are two-wheel drive. So there's a story to be told in everything, and don't think that you need to do the craziest stuff to have an awesome adventure, because this last 2 weeks has been truly amazing, and I don't know how to put it into words how much I appreciate that some of you guys are watching these videos. Thank you so much for sticking around for the story and for the conclusion, because just watching a video all the way through really does help YouTube see the value in these kinds of videos. And if you would click the like button, comment below, it all helps tremendously for YouTube to basically see that people care about these videos. And I am trying to do more of this type of content in the future, more crazy off-road content in the future, and just better and better everything in the future.
The sun is beginning to set against the Idaho mountains, and we are both grateful to have such a beautiful place to spend our last evening.
So you can light it at the same time.
A golden sunset, a fantastic dinner, staring at the stars, and then we're off to bed and on to new adventures.
So we're going to do some nighttime photography, and then we're going to climb up in the tent, and that is about it for this trip. We're going to make the beautiful drive out through Idaho, but we got to get back to Colorado tomorrow. This trip really goes to show that you don't need max tracks and you don't need a winch to enjoy this kind of stuff. Beginners, there's plenty of stuff to explore out there. Start small. You don't have to invest a ton into this kind of thing. And just really get out there and find different places to explore in your state, because no matter what you see on YouTube, not everything is like Colorado where you need aggressive everything. This has been a nice change of pace. Driving on the beaches has been incredible. Driving on forest roads that are just forgiving and not beating us up all day, it's been pretty nice. So for those that have stuck around to the end of the video, thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. So yeah, I think that's it. That's it.